For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm Marcella Marlowe. I'm the city manager for the city of San Marino. Very proud to be here. This is our town hall meeting. We do these meetings monthly, and we do them on a variety of different topics, whatever seems like it might be interesting to members of the community. So we're delighted to see a handful of people here for our topic tonight with Fire Chief Rueda. And of course, I'm delighted to acknowledge and appreciate a couple of our council members who are here this evening to support us and join us. So Mayor Ken Udy is here, although you can't see his face. Our Vice Mayor Susan Jacobowski is here, and you can see her face. And then Council Member Gretchen Shepherd-Rami is here, and you can't see her face yet, but her face is coming, I think. There it is. And you saw Mayor Udy's face for just a moment. So we have rare council member sightings, and it's delightful to have them aboard. So again, thank you so much for joining us. As I mentioned, we do a variety of different topics to try to see what's going to capture residents' interests. And tonight's topic is Fire Chief Rueda, and he is going to do a little bit of conversation about disaster preparedness. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to him here momentarily. And for those of you that are joining us tonight, if there are any other topics that you'd like to see us present a town hall meeting on, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can always reach out to me at citymanageroffice@cityofsanmarino.org, and I will be delighted to hear your suggestions for future topics. So without any further ado, I am always delighted to turn it over to Chief Rueda.
So good evening, residents and council people and others. So I have prepared a brief presentation tonight about really disasters that we could potentially experience here in San Marino. I know that's hard to believe, being 70 degrees every day and 72 degrees every day and beautiful weather. And but San Marino actually does have the capability of being subject to a disaster, actually several of them. I want to talk about what public safety can do for you during a disaster. And lastly, I want to talk about what you can do to prepare. That's really your call to action. And I want to remind you, when disaster strikes, really the time to prepare is past. So you'll see that as a theme through the presentation. I'll go ahead and start my presentation. So really, what is a disaster? It really can be anything overwhelming. Loss of water, power, gas, sewers, flooding, landslides, earthquake, storms, as we have seen in this nation. This year alone, we saw the largest fire in the state's history, the Dixie Fire. We saw several other large fires as a result of die off and global warming and a drought, which I don't think has ended. We saw damaging hurricanes in Louisiana. And I need to remind you, our city's been in a state of emergency for almost 18 months, dealing with a disease that has killed more people in the United States than all of the wars combined. And we're still not done. So what about our beautiful community of San Marino? FEMA in the Stafford Act defines 16 natural or man-made disasters. And San Marino is potentially vulnerable to 10 of those. You should be comforted somewhat that we're not subject to snowstorms, hurricanes. We won't see any volcanic eruptions, no tsunamis, no tidal surge, but we could see earthquakes, fires, floods, storms, landslides, drought, fire, flood, and explosions. So those all could be in our future. So I shared this slide because I always find in preparing for disasters, most people I talk to talk about the last disaster we had. So I wanted to talk about three real potential disasters that could face us. So one being earthquakes. And I share with you a graph of the largest quakes, several of the largest quakes and noteworthy quakes. And I wanted to take an opportunity to point you to the Northridge earthquake, which was 6.7. And you see it's the little tiny box at the end. Northridge was actually not a major quake, although many in Southern California might argue and differ on that. In Northridge, you could drive 25 to 30 miles away and still get a hamburger and a shake and fries and probably be pretty good for the day. But in the area that was impacted, it was certainly a disaster and certainly a major quake. But I wanted to talk to you about some of the quakes that may really impact our city. Go ahead, Jen.
All you need to know, KNX 1070 News Radio.
Good morning. The time is 4:30 on Monday, January 17th, and these are the places where there's news. Washington, the nation.
It was going to be a beautiful day that early morning in Los Angeles in 1994. It was a holiday, the end of a 3-day weekend. Most of the city was asleep, taking it easy. The earth was awake, however, and on the move.
The White House, President Clinton.
It's an earthquake. We're having an earthquake. Relax. Just stay right here. We're having an earthquake. Relax.
911. What is going on? Earthquake.
Okay, and this is Jay Lawrence with radio station KFI. Ladies and gentlemen, if you just, what I can say is we've just experienced a real whopper here, especially here at the radio station. We're trying to piece everything together. What I can say is Los Angeles apparently just had a major trembler.
So major.
So that was intended to bring you back to the moment of what we all considered a major quake at the time. But again, not a major quake by the standards of worldwide earthquakes. I did want to talk to you about 3 quakes that are the potential for damaging earthquakes in our city. So I'll first talk about the upper right-hand corner of my screen. So let's talk about the Raymond Fault. The Raymond Fault runs from Arcadia to West Pasadena. It's capable of a 6.6 earthquake. And because of its proximity to our city and the fact that the fault runs generally through the middle of our city, this could have a significant impact on our city. That nice hill that we have in our city that basically starts at Houston and runs north, that nice little hill is created by the Raymond Fault. It hasn't erupted in quite a number of years, but it sits sort of like a sword of Damocles over our city that we should be considerate of and prepare for. The second one, just below that, the Sierra Madre Fault. The Sierra Madre Fault Zone pictured above is divided into 5 main segments. Movement on this fault zone is part of the process that created the San Gabriel Mountains. The fault runs approximately 35 miles in the photo that you're looking at, and it is capable of an earthquake of 6.0 magnitude. And again, because of proximity to our city, this would be a significant impact on us. Lastly, I wanted to talk about the San Andreas. The San Andreas Fault is about 70 miles east of our city. It runs approximately 250 miles in our segment, and an earthquake along the San Andreas could produce a magnitude 8.0 earthquake, which is a major quake. Worldwide, that's a major quake. 10 million people, including San Marino residents, could expect up to 100 seconds of very strong shaking. Soft sediment, which is what we sit on here in the San Gabriel Valley, is susceptible to strong and magnified shaking. I think we could expect severed utilities, debris, potentially collapsed structures, disrupted communications, disrupted internet and electrical service. There's one thing that Lucy Jones has always pointed out. We have, besides groundwater, we have 4 aqueducts that make their way into Southern California to provide us water. All 4 of those aqueducts cross the San Andreas Fault. So there is the potential for cutting off potentially 70% of our water supply, given that major quake. But that's not the only thing that crosses the San Andreas Fault. The Cajon Pass, basically where the fault runs, the I-15 may be cut off. Rail that runs through the Cajon Pass, and there's a number of petroleum lines and gas lines that also cross the San Andreas Fault. And I have a short video just to touch on a few of those points.
Thousands of faults weave through California like a spider web. Some have yet to be discovered. San Andreas is the most famous in California because of the damage it has and will cause. We are due for the big one.
The fault is not just one surface, right? When it breaks in a particular earthquake, you usually see one surface, but each different earthquake might move slightly different place, and you end up creating a zone that can be a variety of width.
We took a tour along the San Andreas Fault with world-renowned seismologist Dr. Lucy Jones. Here's what she says will happen during the next big quake.
Transmission lines, if the fault doesn't run through the tower, there's often enough flexibility that they can move and stay up. However, if it runs through the tower, it's a problem. These rocks could literally be in the air. I mean, this is actually not the safest. I mean, mostly I want to be outside with nothing to fall on me, but these big boulders here could literally be thrown in the air.
Geologists say the southern part of the San Andreas Fault is 100 years overdue for a major quake. A large earthquake on the San Andreas Fault could be catastrophic for major cities anywhere close to it.
It would have.
So that's earthquakes. But we have other hazards that face us in our city. I just wanted to show a short video on wildland fires and what potentially could happen in a wildland fire or other fires given wind. So just to talk a little bit about the wildfires before I leave that topic, I asked the staff here, I asked the firefighters and others, where might we see something like that in San Marino? That was an underwriter's laboratory test looking at the problem of embers and the large number of homes lost in wildland fires. But I believe that there are segments of the city that could potentially see that kind of ember cast. We have an area just north of Lacey Park, And we have an area just south of the Huntington Library that, given the right conditions, we could see wind carried embers into neighborhoods. I personally have been to a number of fires that resulted from condominium fires under construction that created that kind of ember cast. I've been to a number of wildland fires in my career where embers just like that started a number of homes on fire. Well, San Marino is blessed with lush vegetation and really architecture that is unparalleled. Some of our wood roofs and those that don't adhere to our brush clearance ordinance, could experience problems in a circumstance like that. I'll talk about some of the things that we can do as a homeowner. But one of the things the council did last year is pass the ordinance that created Class A roofs for all new construction. So legislation in this case in the future will help prevent a circumstance like that. So I also wanted to point out a man-made hazard that exists on the western border of our city. Many don't know that we have a 20-inch gas line that runs along Garfield Avenue. That gas line is capable of being pressurized to 200 pounds of pressure. Several years ago, San Bruno, California experienced a leak and a break in a gas line that mirrored what we have on the western edge of our city. It created a devastating explosion, a giant crater in the ground, in a neighborhood that was struck with burning debris. And at first responders that arrived there thought it was actually a plane that had crashed, a jetliner that had crashed, but it turned out to be a gas pipeline, a significant event. Fortunately for all of us, since then, SoCal Gas regularly tests these pipelines. They test this pipeline, they pressurize it, they actually put a robot inside it to check for leaks and thickness, and they do that every 5 years. I always worry about a construction accident. Contractors are required to contact or call 811 to ensure they're not digging in an area where we have utilities. But even in San Marino, we've experienced a number of smaller gas leaks like this where contractors have hit gas pipelines. Next slide. So what can first responders do for you? A lot of it depends on the size of the disaster and how many people are affected. Both fire and police departments in San Marino are part of the mutual aid system, and we routinely request mutual aid from our partner cities. However, that being said, it depends what's going on in their city. In fact, in a time of disaster when systems are overwhelmed, most cities put back up their borders and keep all their resources at home until they stabilize their own situation. And that would be the case in a disaster that hit our region or the San Gabriel Valley. And mutual aid time for additional resources would be variable depending on what else is happening in adjacent areas. The quake I described would be devastating for hundreds of miles. So we would have to see resources come from outside of the region. Fire and police are very good at developing the situation of the city. We have a plan to scour the city, do a windshield survey, determine where our most emergent situations are. We work to save lives, protect the public. We prevent the spread of fires, and generally we will bring organization to the chaos that's occurring in our city. It may just be a while before we get to your specific problem. Next slide. So what can you do? So number one, don't be overwhelmed by this presentation. It was meant in part to bring some reality to what can occur here, and be prepared. You can start with looking at whether or not your home qualifies for earthquake retrofitting grants if you haven't bolted your home. These are available now. They're on the advertisements on our website. And it is one of the measures that may prevent your house from toppling off its foundation. This is a really important step to try to keep your home intact, particularly in a largely residential single-family area like we have. This could potentially prevent numerous homes from being shifted off their foundations. So Southern California Gas does not make a recommendation as to whether residents should should place shutoff valves on their gas meters. It's an individual decision, and much of it depends on proximity to your neighbors, your ability to shut your own utilities off. But they do have on their website a segment where they discuss this. This shutoff, this earthquake shutoff, is actually on the owner's side of the meter. So it is something the individual homeowner would have to contract with a plumber to place that earthquake shutoff valve. But for residents that are difficulty getting outside, are not proficient with tools to shut off their gas valve, this may be something for you to look into. So on our website, I won't spend a whole lot of time going through the entire list, but on our website, these fire safety tips are available to you. The San Marino Fire Department every year goes out into the community and does brush inspections, brush clearance inspections. We've just completed those. I did a short video on those for the website. We are in the process of going back to just a few homes to conduct re-inspections to make sure those hazards that we did cite are cleaned up. Harden your home. Give us a fighting chance to ensure your house doesn't burn down. And it really starts with construction in looking at the roof style that you may be looking at. It also means having somebody clear your gutters on your roof, make sure all those pine needles, anything combustible is moved away from your home. Any trees that are near your home may need to be trimmed back. And if you have any questions, we will come out and provide an inspection of your home, even if you're not in our high fire hazard severity zone. Harden your home. Give us a chance to make sure your home's gonna survive that ember storm that I was showing previously. So what else can you do? Lucy Jones just wrote an article, and I think generally the advice is to prepare a kit, make a communications plan with your family, do the bolting of your foundation, et cetera, et cetera. But she wrote this article about getting to know your neighbors. It is the one way that you're going to find out who has a capability or tools or interest in being a part of a group that looks out for the neighborhood. Host a block party or neighborhood watch meeting. I know we work closely with the San Marino Police Department to attend block parties, teach people about their utilities, teach people how to build a kit, convince your neighbors that neighborhood watch and disaster preparedness are a priority. And don't plan on isolating yourself. There's lots of resources in our community. I think one of the efforts that Hillary Dorsey has made with the community church is just outstanding. It's brought a number of people together. They talk about disaster preparedness, about building kits, and about where they might help seniors in their congregation that may need assistance. So what else can you do? You can sign up for information. Nixle has become our default day-to-day communication system for residents. It's easy to get on Nixle, and it will be one of the first communication systems that may alert you to a problem in our city. We also have a contract service called Blackboard Connect. It basically will reach out to your landline in the event of an emergency. San Marino also has authority through the federal communications to put out wireless emergency alerts. That means we can take over the local cell sites and put out emergency messaging in the event of a variety of emergencies. Lastly, I wanted to point out the Pulse Point app. It's on your phone, either iOS or Android. You can go to your app store and download Pulse Point for San Marino, and that will basically inform you of any emergency that the fire department is responding to in our community. All of these are excellent. Nixle and Pulse Point require you to go and take an action and sign up. The emergency alert notifications will come to you whether you like it or not. We're going to keep you informed. So one of the things that's on our website and that I will share with you is preparing a family communication plan. It is one of the sources of the most stress in the event of an emergency. How do I get a hold of my family? Just a few minutes spending time with your family about how we would communicate with each other, where we might meet, and other key information might be the solution to a lot of stress on the day of an event. There's lots of information on there. Text is very much preferred over actually any other means of communication. It takes a lot less data, but there's plenty of information on the website. And I think it is one of the things, knowing your family's safe, that there's a lot of other things you could deal with that won't overwhelm you if you know your family's safe. So I put this slide next because I think there's lots of information on making a kit. In fact, the city, if you attend our senior living series, the city will give you a kit. And they're really good kits. But making an emergency kit is really the first step in preparing after you talk to your neighbors. And I think one of the most important steps is next time you're at Osh or True Value, pick up a waterproof plastic trash can as a start to compile things that you might need. First aid kits, tools, canned foods, other things that don't perish. In the emergency kit that the city supplies, that the city has supplied in the past, we have a radio so that you can pick up AM news. We have a flashlight, and both are operated by, not by battery, but by small generator that you can hand crank. There's a few tools located in there. We would intend for you to put some comfortable shoes. We provide gloves, goggles, and I guess if it really got bad, you might have to use that bucket for a waste receptacle too, but that is provided for you. So what else can you do? Since the pandemic, we have not conducted the ordinary community-based first aid, bleeding control, AED, but that doesn't mean you couldn't come. We haven't conducted them for groups, but that doesn't mean you couldn't come to the fire station and learn how. Where the apparatus floor now is open to visitors, and I would expect if the numbers keep improving, that this will be something that we look to start again, which is training the community. We've trained high school seniors, we've trained the teachers, and we've done a number of trainings at the senior center for just basic skills, how to take care of yourself and your family. So I expect that we can start to do that again. And that concludes my presentation for tonight. Again, I wanted to make sure you're aware that although it's 72 degrees and sunny in San Marino, there may be a day when we have gray or black skies and we may have a problem. And I want you to be prepared. You understand what public safety might do for you. And then lastly, some things you can do for yourself. And we do have many resources available on the website. And certainly if you have any questions, you could contact us by email or just stop in and we'd be happy to guide you through those questions.